this may come across as something new. It's not. I think let's clarify that first. But it solves some of the fundamental issues that we had with the way Small Outside was structured. And a lot of it is how we perceive things. A lot of it is around the legal structures so that we can do the right things without getting caught out by legal issues. So overall, there is no change in direction. The Changemakers Alliance still has exactly the same things, which is sustainable entrepreneurship and conscious consumerism. The bit that is almost cemented and committed in the statute here is it's a global cooperative. And for those of you who don't know what a cooperative is, a cooperative is essentially a business. It's not any different to any other business, but it is owned by the members, and it'll all become clear as we go. So this is kind of putting the commitment of a member-owned organization in the statute itself. And in terms of the mission remains still exactly the same, which is to effect a positive change using sustainable entrepreneurship and conscious consumerism. And the vision's also exactly the same, which is create a world where entrepreneurship and businesses are actually a force for good. And it becomes the norm one day, as in our lifetimes. I don't know how much we will have achieved, but the goal is that we have a world where business becomes a force for good. And also at an individual level, consumers are making the right choices, which kind of forces the right behavior with the businesses as well. So everything we consume, we always have a choice. Quite often we don't exercise it, and this is about just putting that little consciousness into our consumer behavior. So the objectives are promote and support sustainable entrepreneurship, deliver sustainable products and services. So it's like any other business. We will be talking about products and services, but the word sustainable is important. Creating purpose-driven employment. So entrepreneurship is not for everyone, but there are enough change makers on this planet who want to see something better, and they would rather align their work and time to something that truly inspires them. So that's what is also the goal. And all this starts with a good understanding of what being sustainable is. So improving the learning and the education related to that is an important objective. And the last one is really, what does it mean for members? It covers all three aspects of our typical existence. The economic side, so it has to generate value, financial value back to members. It has to, as in, while it's not the goal to make profits, economic covers several other aspects as well. So things like employment is an economic value, right? Or if you are a business member, then creating business opportunities for yourselves is an economic value. What you do with it, how much you make is almost your problem. Just like how much you make out of your employment has nothing to do with the alliance, but the alliance creates those opportunities. The social side is, of course, we are social animals, so it's all the human interaction that brings. And not just that, even in terms of the social standing. So the pioneers and the members who are doing the right things will naturally bubble up somewhere in the form of recognition, which is important, of course, and that opens up many doors. If you have a social standing in the society, it kind of opens up many other avenues, and do what you will with it, right? Or it's just that emotional benefit of having done the right things and being recognized. So those are very important aspects we can deliver. And the last one is cultural benefits, which is, again, cultural may seem very nebulous, but we live in a world with so many diverse cultures, and quite often there is a lack of understanding between the different cultures. And I, for one, would love to learn about all the cultures, but there is no so there is a learning benefit that it creates of other cultures. So it's that kind of cross-pollination and all that. So that's what it means. And all these three, by the way, have a much wider range, and there's enough out there to get your teeth into, and we will write about all this so it creates more clarity. But those are the objectives. In terms of focus, we've always talked about UN SDGs, but quite often the SDGs, given our focus is on sustainable entrepreneurship and conscious consumerism, it has to lend itself to being able to create businesses or products and services. And of these 17 SDGs, these 8 provide a natural leaping pad. So if you talk about good health and well-being, that creates opportunities to build products and services that promote good health and well-being, whether it's emotional, physical, doesn't matter. But same applies. As in Crowd Academy is a great example of quality education. So how do we deliver that? And that can be a venture in its own right. And it creates benefits for the members in terms of education, and it supports some of the objectives around creating a better understanding of sustainability and all this. So these 8 were very clear. Life below water and life on land are equally important. So just to clarify, the Alliance's objective is not just humans, it's also other living forms that exist over here. And while we are focusing on the 8, it doesn't mean we are ignoring the remaining 9. They all are intertwined. The way sustainability objectives work, it's called a wicked problem. So if you have a opposite of that, a conscious solution, it kind of starts having positive impacts. So things like poverty or zero hunger, for example, straight away you will have benefits from there. Gender equality is very much in the ethos, so that kind of automatically creates those benefits. But from an entrepreneurship and consumerism perspective, these 8 provide a leaping pad for real action. So some of the key concepts here, and this deck and presentation is very much focused on the key concepts. So we are not trying to explain, everything is explainable, but in terms of specifics, that is the next action that will follow, and I'll cover that during another session. But firstly, let's understand, why do we need a global alliance? Now, there are lots of challenges, by the way, and these are not the only reasons, but these I thought were the 5 top reasons why an alliance is necessary. Firstly, we know what's happening with our environment. At a global level, we all live within the same ecosystem, essentially, environmental ecosystem. Doesn't matter where the butterfly flutters its wings, the impacts are everywhere, right? So that environmental, I think, is our biggest challenge of the century, of where we stand. Economic inequality does exist, and the two are funnily very, very interrelated. Inequality creates degradation, degradation creates inequality, and it's just a crazy dynamic there. And then we have businesses which are, of course, focusing on quotas. Now, that's great if people are being driven, even conscious change makers are being driven to these quarterly goals, and that then creates the wrong behaviors. So how do we change that? And that's a problem that definitely needs solving. Consumer exploitation covers several aspects, but I think the biggest one here is around transparency. If some product or service was transparent to me in terms of, we can talk about fast fashion, right? The way it gets delivered is at the cost of some farmers or some watering systems, which is spoiling the local land, or the exploitation of labor somewhere in Bangladesh, which we've seen human toll because of trying to make things cheap, and then safety concerns don't get taken care of. So while it seems like consumer exploitation, it again, just like the wicked problem, goes down the chain at various levels. If that transparency existed on how the products were built and how sustainably, what decisions were made in delivering those, then people wouldn't buy that stuff, right? So if I was happy with fast fashion and wanted to save money, but I knew the real cost of buying a £5 t-shirt, I'll probably be more willing to say, okay, I'll skip a few coffees and buy a £20 t-shirt. That's the kind of change that we can create. And the last one is really at the heart of why an alliance is needed. We are not the only ones trying to make a difference. There are lots of people around the world, as in while they may seem a minority, the collective existence of that will make them a majority, as in cooperatives themselves have a membership base of 1 billion, not million, billion people around the world. So that kind of cooperative approach creates that unified noise and voice, which can make a difference, because it's about amplification. 1 + 1 is not 2 in cooperatives, it's actually 11. So how do we get to that kind of collective action? And it's not I'm just trying to remind myself what I wrote there, but it's about workers, entrepreneurs, and businesses. And I'll explain how this works in terms of the alliance and the composition of the membership. So it's not just budding entrepreneurs who are just getting together because they have their startup dreams. Of course, we all have that desire, but it can be workers, people who just say, you know what, not interested in startups. I just want my 9 to 5. I want to make the same amount of money, but do something good in return. It's that kind of population as well. We've got the consumers, which we've covered. And then while entrepreneurs almost kind of puts or creates the impression these are early stage people, but there are entrepreneurs who are already successful and they are running businesses, and quite often they started their journey with positive visions for the world, and then in comes the VC capital and they get driven into a direction which is not compliant almost with their original vision, and these kind of businesses would also be encouraged to be part of this collective. And then we've got the B Corps who already exist, who are doing the right things, so they can also be members of the alliance. So it's not just humans, but it's also entities like business entities which take a human form essentially, and all that leads to collective action and transformative change. Ultimately, that's the idea. And while we talk about, and this is more bedded into various principles and also the legal constraints around cooperatives. So what I mean by that is, firstly, if we look at the global problem, the globe is made of a lot of localities at the end of it. So a local action, and each locality has its own nuances, its cultures, its problems, its priorities. So it's about working at a local level, but with a global collaboration. So that's the point here. And the legal aspects of it is things like, and I've been in conversation with Cooperatives UK in how we are supposed to structure it. They are, one of their points was, will it be primarily UK based? And I said, hold on, we're working on a global issue here. How can it be only UK based? Now, their point was, yes, you could have some membership, but it has to be primarily UK based. So I'm trying to clarify that a little bit. So from a legal structure perspective, we may have to just have lots of cooperatives which come together to form the alliance, but it solves other issues like disparity between currencies. So a local action, if they were charging in dollars, if let's say there was an action in India, which Rama, you are doing, if there was a dollar cost to it or a pound cost to it, it becomes very expensive. It even becomes expensive for participation as a member. If you need to pay a certain amount of money to become a member, a dollar value will kind of exclude participation from people purely because of financial reasons. So there are several reasons why we need to structure ourselves into local cooperatives, which all come together to form this global alliance. It may, while it creates that flexibility and freedom, it also and autonomy as well, because each local area functions with its own autonomous structures and office bearers and decision-making powers. From a financial perspective, ideally, if it all could connect together, an administrative perspective, then that would be ideal. But I think we will come up against, I think that Rama, you were mentioning in terms of even funding, I think there are regulations in India which prevent people from putting money into, invest money into startups and all that as individuals. So there may be those kinds of constraints which we can overcome through local structures. But there's a lot to unpick here, and the good news is we have a lot of existing blueprints that cooperatives already have. It's cooperatives have been running since 1844, so it's quite a mature knowledge base that we can tap into. But it's not just that; it's also and I think it's on the next slide, cooperatives by nature, or one of the founding principles is cooperatives support cooperatives. And there are 3 million of them around the planet. So we should be able to reach out to any of those, because the ethos there is cooperatives support cooperatives. So working with the Co-op Bank, for example, here, we can get advantage of reducing a cost base because we are a cooperative. They even support us with the registration activities, legal activities that we will have to undergo. They provide us 10 days of consulting time. So Cooperatives UK will give us 10 days of legal expertise and all that, because of that principle and ethos of cooperatives supporting cooperatives. But that's something we'll have to do, and we'll figure out who takes the lead on it and runs with it. Until there is someone who wants to take a lead, I'll keep running with it anyways. And that's the cooperative DNA. So this is not what I have said. This is what the International Cooperative Alliance has said, and these are the values and principles that they uphold, and the Alliance will also uphold exactly the same values and principles. And you'll recognize the values. They are no different to all the values and ethos that we have been talking about over the last 6 years. And there are some very interesting concepts there as well. And again, you can have a look at the guidance notes and the two lines here. They're pretty comprehensive documents around how to go about implementing this. So this is, again, coming back to that knowledge base that exists in order to do it. But if I very quickly cover the principles for the purpose of this call, voluntary and open membership is very much as a cooperative. There shouldn't be, as in what businesses do is they engage in practices where they will only give benefits. Like if I take Costco, for example, yes, it's got global successes, but you cannot shop in Costco unless you're a member. So that's completely against the cooperative's principle. You should be able to use the services that the cooperative produces without having to be a member. So that's what voluntary and open means, but it also covers the other aspects we talk around inclusivity, which is there should be no gender bias, no race bias. None of these biases must exist, and including political, geographical, all. There has to be absolutely no restriction for people to participate. Of course, there can be statutes which say so things like when it comes to business membership, we will, because of the greenwashing that businesses do and the abuse of the word sustainability that people do, we'll probably have statutes which very clearly dictate who can join. But that's just us putting a quality control on to avoid abuse. But that's the kind of stuff you can do. Democratic member control. So this is not owned by me. This is not owned by Small Outside. This is entirely owned by the members of the cooperative, and the cooperative, there'll be no the decision making is not driven by how much share an individual has or the business has. It's got one member, one vote. So although me as the person who's put in a lot of effort over the last 6 years and even financial costs, there is no way I can exert pressure on the alliance to make decisions in my favor, for example. I can only vote for once. And that's it. So I think it's important to have that, and that's what democratic control means. It's not at the same time a way to make ourselves slow. So democracy doesn't necessarily mean slow state government behaviors or government-like behaviors. We can still be very agile but democratic, and that's where we will be structuring how we make that happen through the concepts like circles that we've talked about, where there is a group of no more than 10 people, taking some learnings from agile, the way agile principles work. So small groups of people with complete autonomy, but an overarching guiding principle that they all adhere to. And those guiding principles, again, are directed by the members. So it's not directed by one person. It's an inverted pyramid in terms of structure, if you like. So the members are at the top. And if there is, not if, there will be a management team and there will be a board, but they are at the bottom of the pyramid and they are servant leaders to the members. So ultimate call comes from the members. And there are patterns around implementing it and things like that. So we can do that. Member economic participation is very much the value that the cooperative creates, and there will be lots of opportunities to create value through collaborative exercises and operations. But the economic value gets transferred to the members. So if let's say if it was just 20 of us, and that's not the vision, we are talking about a global cooperative going into millions is the vision. But whoever is that group that exists over there, any returns that get created, and I'll just use a very simple example to get the point across. If the 5 or 6 of us got together and said, right, we are going to sell sustainable products in the local village fair, and we go and buy those products for 20 pounds and we sell them for 30 pounds. And those 5 of us, the 10 pounds get redistributed to the 5. If it was equal kind of participation, 2 pounds each. But that's the idea here. Quite often, cooperatives, of course, are businesses. So not quite often, they always are businesses at the end of it, but they may say, you know what, we need to put some money aside for the next fair that we will participate in, and therefore we'll all take £1 profit, but the second pound will invest towards having a greater inventory for the next times. So just as an example to bring that to life. So at the end of it, the economic benefits transfer to the members based on the shareholding they have. Autonomy and independence, there's a very nice principle here, which if I can touch upon it, I'll be writing about it. I never pronounce the word, but there are 2 principles here, solitude and solidarity. Now, what that essentially means, and it relates to autonomy and independence, is as a cooperative, the 5 of us would be, we will have solidarity in the decisions. So a decision gets made, we are all backing it. But that doesn't mean we all keep poking into everything, which is where the other aspect comes in, solidarity, or may even be pronouncing the word wrong, so excuse me. But that is, you don't offer help unless somebody wants it. So because I can see JP on my screen, if JP says, you know what, I'm running with this and leave me alone. I want my creative expression and freedom to do this because I believe I'm capable. That's it. That's JP's prerogative to run with it. and nobody needs to offer help unless JP says, you know what, I need help here. And that's when the other members participate in it. It's a very important principle around, and it's not just at an individual member level, but also at the global level. So if the cooperative in Lithuania, let's say, was wanting to make decisions, it doesn't need to be poked by the global board for everything. Of course, the global board is a servant leader to the local board, and therefore it will have certain influence, but not necessarily coercive control on the local cooperative. So that's kind of autonomy we are talking about. Education, training, and information is very much a key principle, simply because if people are participating in collaborative action, but they don't quite understand how that works. So things that I'm covering right now, or today's presentation, is essentially touching on principle 5, and I'm going into that lower level detail, making sure members of the collaborative and cooperative are working together, they understand these principles, and they're working to those principles. So in our case, we will extend that a little further through one of the objectives around improving understanding of sustainability. So in our case, this will be it will have a wider remit, but quite often when the ICA puts it forward, they mean more in terms of how cooperatives are run. So that's what that is. I've covered the cooperation among cooperatives already, so I wouldn't delve too much into it. And the last one is concern for communities. And that's, again, at the heart of the whole why we exist, and which allows us to work. In fact, we are so strongly aligned to that principle. We don't even need, as in, of course, we need to put it in the statutes, but it's intrinsic to what we are trying to do. Hopefully that gives you, and I'll allow some time towards the end for question and answers, but that's a quick overview of the cooperative DNA. The business model really, because we are focusing on positive entrepreneurship and conscious consumerism, I can't imagine us not having a venture thinking here. So anything and everything we do will work and will be based through more business models that we believe will create both economic value, but also the social and cultural values as well. In terms of how the alliance will work is there is common stuff, right? So all of us are doing, maybe your startup is an impact startup. What Rama's doing is an impact startup. What Pastor wants to do with Freedom Vending is an impact startup. But all of us seem to have common requirements. So those things may, even simple things, right? So if we look at, all of us have need for digital presence. Now, there may be a service that the cooperative builds to enable that digital presence rapidly, so that a change maker with a simple idea can at least express it to the world very rapidly. So that's an example of a shared service. And for that, depending, we'll have to look at the commercials around it, because if people are going to put time towards it or money towards it, that somehow needs to be recovered. So it could become a service offering, for example. And but that's what I mean by shared services, and that's through those shared services. Let's take that as an example. If we say the Alliance provides services to get you started and online, there may be a package. Again, I'm just putting figures here, but it may be you pay £100 and you get started. Now that £100 is going towards into the Alliance's kitty. Whoever is providing those services, the Alliance ends up paying them, but hopefully keeps a margin or profit so that the members ultimately benefit. So it's a very different way of doing things. In terms of the benefits that this kind of approach creates, is firstly, it allows for this incubation of these kind of change-making ideas. it kind of gets you started and gets you supported throughout the change making journey. As in, at the start of the call, JP, you were talking about the state of the market and investments not coming forward. Now, that kind of support can be done, even if it means maybe there's no direct investment initially, because the alliance obviously will want to make sure that there will be returns for the alliance, or at least it will financially self-sustain itself, your venture. There may be checks and balances, but it can still provide support in other forms by connecting you with other people, or there may be a venture funding arrangement service, which all of us will need, but that could come from the cooperative, and people already have those business models where the fund organizer keeps something like 5 to 7% of the funds arranged. Now that would become the alliance's income essentially, and that in turn would help all the members, because it kind of transfers back to the members ultimately. So that's all the different kinds of things, but it also creates the support that change makers require. And again, I'm talking about entrepreneurs here in this example for the first bullet point, because it's about independently owned triple bottom line ventures. Last week, we had an interesting conversation. I asked Rama, I said, who does community capital belong to, or who owns it? Is it owned by you, or is it owned by the group? And I think we confused Rama a bit, but with the Crowd Academy, it was very clear that it is owned by the group. So it's not owned by individuals. But what that explains is there is a need to have ventures which are owned by the alliance and therefore the group of members, as well as for people who want to have independent ventures. So if Rama wants to progress community capital as his venture, he should be able to do it, because ultimately he is performing a change-making role, and therefore he's adding to the wider goodness. So it's about creating that separation between community group or group-owned ventures and independent ventures, and supporting all of them. And not just at the incubation stage, but even at growth stage. So businesses that already have crossed that path, if you look at B Corps and all that, as B Corp registration itself is quite a time-consuming exercise, which businesses will never do unless they've already reached a certain maturity. Now, they are in a growth stage already. So the alliance can support them even with simple things like, if they are looking to recruit, a recruitment service from the alliance will automatically provide well-aligned employees to these kind of mature businesses, and in turn generate revenue back for the alliance. So even that is an example of a shared service. But all of these, whether they are early stage ventures, whether they're just mere ideas, whether they are full-blown unicorns like Patagonia, all of them, they can get access to a reliable set of services and partners. And what I mean by that is, as a change maker, when you start your change making journey, you end up on Fiverr and you get, my experience, I call it a sixer because I always throw it beyond the field. It has never worked for me. All I get is this noise of unaligned people who, it's a bit like throwing food in water and suddenly this fish swarm around it and they kind of fight between each other. And that's the feeling I always get from Fiverr. I never get that, right, I can go to this person and I'll get reliable service, guaranteed service. And that's what the cooperative can provide. And that's both in terms of the services that it builds. So the services that the cooperative builds will be reliable by nature, because that's in the statute. Of course, it will have bugs. If you're building software solutions, it will have some limitations, but again, it's member owned. So, and for the service of members, so one can be pretty sure that the services we build will be reliable. But the partners, so business entities who become members of the cooperative, some of them may achieve a trusted partner status depending on how reliable their services are. And all of this becomes accessible to all the members. It creates employment and networking opportunities for individual members. So it's not always about business. It's also about networking, having a laugh, as in we meet every Saturday for various reasons, not just to make money and things like that. We meet for social reasons as well. So this is kind of touching on third space to some extent here. But it's also touching on rework, which was the employment approach. So how do we rework the venture? And I'll do a bit of a mapping between all these things that I'm saying to all the things we've done in the past. So you can kind of start seeing the leaps between principles around education and how that connects with Open Academy as a Crowd Academy that we've been working on. But I'll do that mapping at some point. And then B2B engagements and collaborations. So if you're a business member, it creates those things. It creates collaboration opportunities with other business members. So that's, I think we had, again, the name escapes me, but we were building this network of conscious businesses, and that's kind of a B2B collaboration solution, whereas B2B engagements are, if you recall, and I know Balaji, you were very much in those discussions when we were talking about Ride Piper and how that could result in, for Wafer Technologies, which was working as a trusted partner on it while we were experimenting, it results in B2B engagements for the businesses into the ventures that we build. Investment opportunities for patient investors. So this is really clarifying we don't want to work with businesses that are with short-term goals, because the problems we are trying to solve need that patience and the longer-term vision and the behaviors that brings, because some of these things take time, and if you've got the wrong investors, it will just go back to the old VC style model where the founder's vision gets impacted because someone keeps breathing down their necks for profit. While I'm saying all this, please bear in mind, profit is also a goal. It's not the primary goal, and that's important. So it's not like we don't want to make money for the investors. We want to make it, but we don't want to work with investors who don't carry the ethos we carry. And then we've covered sustainable products and services. So services and products we build or the members build. If there's any smell of greenwashing from the members, that will be immediately out. So we'll put this in the statute of how you can lose a membership as well, because greenwashing is becoming an increasingly big problem. And it's the depth of its impact is not just on, oh, it doesn't feel right. It also starts impacting the good work that people are doing, genuine people are doing, because they get badged as greenwashers, and therefore it kind of stops their progress, if that makes sense. So it's a serious problem. Greenwashing is a serious problem that needs addressing. So we covered that, and then exploiting the capabilities and the IPR for scaling impact. So that's a benefit which people in the technology industry will easily understand. But stuff we are building, anything we build, we can consume it for our own purposes, but that's fine. But if you really want to scale impact, there may be non-members who are doing the right things, but our IPR can be exploited to support them so that the same IPR can scale its impact into the wider world and help other initiatives, irrespective of whether they want to be members or not, but they may be offered as services. It may be a SaaS offering, which kind of makes their journeys easier and better. But these are all different kinds of things that generate value back, and I'm consciously not using the word revenue, but the value comes back in the form of economic, social, and cultural. That's the business model again. And then we hold biases, but we hold positive biases. And I think it's important to clarify what that is, and it captures some of the ethos as well. So one is venturization. We don't want to be using models which cannot financially self-sustain or create economic prosperity. There are far too many initiatives on this planet where people do stuff and it dies because it created an impact, but it didn't have financial backbone to survive and continue with the impact it was creating. So that is an absolute no-no. We are not going down that path. Anything that we build, it doesn't have to make profits, just to clarify, but it has to sustain itself financially. Maybe not initially, maybe the alliances funds can be used to give it that early life support, if you like, but at some point it has to, even if it makes works on a no profit, no loss basis, that's still a good outcome. The ideal outcome would be it makes profits so that the members also benefit from it, but it has to be venturized. Open models, we do hold a bias for that, and for very good reasons. If you want to scale impact, you can't scale impact by being closed. It doesn't work. It's just a bad model, to be honest, at various levels. So we do hold bias for open models, and that includes open source and Creative Commons, and that also means our use of these kind of technologies that these offer, but also contributing back to them. So if we are building an extension, let's say, just for an example, we are using WordPress for the website, and if we build an extension to solve a problem, we will open source it so that others can benefit from that work. Open model is almost intrinsic to what we are doing because we're talking about open innovation here, where people are coming together. As in, I'll give you an example of the website yesterday. It went live and Parson saw he thought there could be an improvement in the graphic simply because of how the logo was overlapping with the other thing. And he came forward and he said, right, okay, here's a different graphic. And he's come up with a lovely GIF, which I need to figure out how to incorporate. But it's again, he's giving back, if you like, to the initiative. But this kind of open innovation would not happen if we were working with closed models. If I was saying, oh yeah, this is my website and Parson, you've got no say, that would still remain the static graphic that it currently is. And open innovation allows for that kind of improvement. So it's very important, the open models. Collaboration, we've covered several times on previous calls, but it's building that culture. If we all are driving to the same goals, I'm not talking about financial goals here, I'm talking about the same outcomes. 5 of us could be doing exactly the same thing, right? In terms of the end goal. How we implement, irrespective, and however hard we try, all 5 of us will end up implementing it different. It's like making tea. You can give the same ingredients, and the goal is make a cup of tea. Each of us will make different teas, and that's the beauty of open innovation and creativity. But it comes with collaboration as well. So while we may be competing for the same customer who wants to drink our cup of tea, we will collaborate on how to make better tea or exchange knowledge. And that's a very interesting balance, and it will not work for people who are not aligned to this thinking. And that's a great way to rule them out. People who say, oh yeah, no, I don't want to compete. I just want to compete. I don't want to collaborate. Thank you very much. The door's on that side. So please close it behind you kind of approach. But that's an important aspect. And the reason is very clear. Businesses that are focusing on pure profit will never buy into this. But businesses that are, and believe me, we are not the only ones. There are lots of businesses that are pursuing excellence along with profit, and they are more than willing. There are enough collaborative organizations there, and there are, like the Alliance, there are entities which bring them together. They share their practices, yet they go and compete for the same business together as well. So it is possible, it does get done, but it only gets done by the right kind of people. Great way to clean out the greenwashers as well here. And then as a service solution is again a bias, but it's a bias where not everything can be open sourced. Right? So for example, members, information about the members, we wouldn't want to put that out into the public domain. But if you wanted to offer a service for the members and you wanted to create a universal login which enables the Alliance's members to log in, so a bit like login with Google, login with Microsoft, and maybe login with whatever we call it, pay the change login kind of thing. So that will be offered as a service. So the member data is just kind of controlled, but you can still access the members and the members can access the services. It's a slightly different way of looking at it. And it can also be for where the IPR is sensitive and the members decide that's not something they want to put out in the open domain. It may even be for not just IPR protection, it may even be for IPR sensitivity. There may be algorithms there which you don't want to expose because people will probably abuse the whole system and impact member interest. So those things can be offered as service. And the last one is and the reason why it is last is it's not all about technology. We can have perfectly non-technology things, but we do hold a bias for technology because it helps reduce the cost base. It kind of helps us scale much faster, and it allows us to get started. I tried doing a brick and mortar thing. It's a very slow thing. You just can't move into action on the moment you have an idea. Technology allows you for it, allows you to do it, but it's about doing it for good. And that's the important bit here. So it's not just about technology startups and ventures. It's about technology for good ventures, things that are actually trying to create a positive impact. And there are lots of ideas in this space as well. So those are our biases. And in terms of membership, the first one is the word open is important. It aligns with the principles, but it's open to individuals, early stage entrepreneurs, and established businesses, provided they view themselves as change makers. It's not a social networking alliance where people just come together because they can meet other people, but it's got to be they see themselves as change makers. Now, for individuals, we will not put any litmus tests. We will kind of welcome them in because the fact that they think they want to be part of this is good enough. But for businesses and entrepreneurs, we will put some litmus tests to make sure they are aligned with, and there's no abuse of the values we are trying to pull together. There will be a friction in the form of monthly membership fees, and this is very deliberate. If we don't put this friction, we've seen what has happened with the models over the last 6 years of experimentation. People come in and they lose interest and they never come back, and they create an overhead simply because of non-engagement. Now, that friction is important. What we don't want to do is make it so high that people can't participate. But if there is a small friction, and that again, the money is not being used for anything other than it just ends up in the Alliance's pot to allow the Alliance to do its work. And whatever is not used again goes back to the members. So it's not like anyone's trying to make money, but the friction has to exist. And for those who cannot afford it, there will be people who just can't afford it. It's too expensive, whatever it is. I don't know. I was thinking of £9.99 or something like that, but it may be too too expensive for some people. And then there'll be other ways to do it where they do either one of the pot sponsors it or something like that, but through means tested approach, or it may be they earn their membership through some contribution in kind in terms of work that they do and support the cooperative. So we'll figure it out. don't want to create friction which creates which is not inclusive, if that makes sense. So that's the friction part, and all the fees that come in will get converted back into shareholding. So it's not like that money that a member provides is not theirs, it is theirs. But it's sitting in this pot, and all of that, whatever, let's say, 5 of us each put £10, £50 this month, £50 next month, all that is getting accumulated. Any cost that the cooperative incurs will be taken from that. If it makes profit, that pot will get bigger, and all that will go back for the individuals who have contributed into it. But that's not the only way to increase the shareholding. The shareholding will also be increased through work. And Parsons already, as in during this week, we've achieved quite a lot actually. And Parson now has an account which enables him to support. So if you go to the site right now, you will see it pops up with how may I help, whatever chat box. And both Parson and me are what one would call, although we are calling it customer care associates because we're all associates into the alliance. That's a cost, that's a time. If Parson's going to stay tuned in his phone, and the moment somebody sends a message and is going to reply, he's putting in time and effort. So that's got to be recognized in the form of something back to him. So it's not always you can increase your shareholding by either putting in money, which goes towards the membership fees and all that, or you can provide service, and that results in, and again, all of these are principles that we've talked about. The SOS tokens were essentially trying to do this. We will go back to the SOS solution because as a cooperative, we can use blockchain. We'll get the legal thing, but while we are a small group, it doesn't matter. We are not building a sham scheme or anything. We're just using blockchain as a transparent database to record the shareholding. So that kind of use, hopefully, the FCA and all don't have a problem with. But that's something which I'll be looking into, and will create new tokens which enable. So SOS will be sunsetted. That will have no value now. But the Alliance will have its own blockchain solution to maintain the calculations around who holds how much shareholding and create transparency, because people shouldn't be allocated tokens just because they are my friends. So I shouldn't be able to abuse. It should be so transparent that everything is clear that this person received this for this reason, and that's how it will work. We will even bring the model of level base. So if some of you will remember, we had level 1, level 2, all the way to level 7. So it's where everyone's putting their time in different kind of roles. So it's not one size fits all reward. Depending on the work you're doing, we'll look at what the market offers. If let's say a customer care associate was being paid, I don't know what they get paid, but let's say they're getting paid £20 an hour, and that's what some of us are putting, then that's the measurement we should be using. So it shouldn't be just because the person, sorry, I'm using your example, but he's a director in his company and therefore his rate is not £20. But if he's doing a role of a customer care agent or associate, then that's what should be payable, not suddenly a director level 7 kind of rate. So it will be task-based allocation of rewards, which translate into a share. One member, one vote we've covered, irrespective of how much shareholding you build, you only get one vote. And naturally, because I've cleared my decks to work on this, I think I'll start accruing a shareholding till somebody supersedes me and puts in more effort than I am. Then that's great, even better. But that doesn't mean I'll have any more than one vote. I'll have one vote. There will be, I will maintain a permanent seat on the board, and that's not because for financial reasons, but if you recall, I've always called myself the chief values officer, and someone's got to hold that kind of seat. So I'll have a permanent seat on the board, which will comprise of other people who are the pioneers, who are the front runners, who are providing. A lot of you have been coming regularly and contributing your time, and that good work has to be recognized. So there will be board member opportunities for that. The permanent seat is only to safeguard the founding principles on which the alliance is being built. It's got no economic value other than safeguard the interests. And member-only benefits, so there will be, whatever things we do, there will be member-only benefits. And if someone, and maybe this is where we clarify. So if someone becomes a member and says, you know what, I came in for a month, not interested, I want to discontinue my membership, that's fine. They still remain a member, but they are not an active member anymore. So they still hold their shareholding. They don't lose it. They can sell it back. They can say, you know what, I want my money back based on whatever is the size of the pot today. They take their money out of it. But if they want to benefit, if they're not actively participating, they may not. So things like if there's a third space implementation, they lose access to that. So they won't be able to connect with other members. But once you become a member, you still remain a shareholder, even if you kind of stop your membership. Hopefully that kind of clarifies how the membership model will work. We will have to, again, we'll form, because it's a member-driven decision, a lot of what I've said is really me trying to accelerate this process instead of, if I had to write this back through a collaborative effort, we would still be talking about what should we put on the cover slide. So what I'm doing really is I've been the only linking pin, consistent linking pin over the 6 years. So I'm literally just churning out everything. As in, if you look at it, Monday to Friday, we now already have a domain. Try finding domains which are valuable, and even so we have a domain, we have a system. Walk you through it. Maybe, Parson, you can give a bit of what you felt when you went through this test process, and share that view in a moment once I finished last point. But we've achieved a lot. So what I'm putting together, I'm kind of calling it a placeholder. But at some point, when I feel I've covered enough and captured everything from the last 6 years, this draft will essentially be open to challenge. And if the members feel, oh, you know what, we need to change this thing, that's fine, because it's not mine. All I'm doing is giving that head start through this process. But at some point, even this pack will become member owned. So everything written in it, everything I've said today will be open for challenge. And the last one is its voluntary participation. I've covered that point, which is you don't have to be a member to access the services that the Alliance builds. But of course, there will be member-only benefits that you can't have. So there may be a preferential pricing and things like that, which people who are non-members, who are not committing their life and soul into it, I'm sorry, but they can't be treated at par with those who are. So there will be that difference, but it will be open to everyone. So we will not hold a bias against people who are non-members. That I think is the thing. How it works, like I said, at this stage, it's all about the principles. There are quite a few others. There are things that I haven't covered, and the one biggest one, which I'll mention right now, which is part of how it works. But there will be a charity. So this alliance is a cooperative, but there will be a charity that will sit beside it, and that will be called Pave the Change. that charity will be used again for exactly the same objectives on furthering positive entrepreneurship, but it will become the means for doing certain things which otherwise we will never do, simply because, oh, look, it doesn't make profit, or it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that. And not everything's got to make profit. So the charity will focus again on very similar objectives. It may have its own things. It will have its own trustees to manage that. It will have its own funding mechanism, but that again will support very similar objectives. The rest of it is really detail, and some of it will become obvious as the website evolves, and you will see some of it. Some of the statutes, as they become written, it will become clear. But other things I'm looking to do, and if anyone can help me with that, is really taking each use case and saying, right, a member, what are the 20 use cases? How does this whole thing work for that person's use cases? And then kind of using real examples to explain how it works and create complete clarity and transparency and remove any ambiguity. So those are things we will do over the coming days, weeks, and months. We will engage with Cooperatives UK to fine-tune some of the thinking that has been done so far. If there was any misalignment or misunderstanding on my behalf, then that should get addressed through those engagements and make sure that we'll be able to do it with the correct legal structures and everything. But those are things to follow. And on that note, I'll very quickly mention, I'll ask Parsin to give his view on. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, if that's okay. And I'll let Parsin, just because he was the guinea pig here, share his view on how much we achieved in just 1 week. So yeah, Parsin, over to you.
Dash, amazing stuff. Like, obviously, I asked Dash, how long did it take? Were you doing this for a couple of weeks? And he said, no, I did it. These bits of things, I did it within 2 days. I was like, wow, you actually got all of this connected, right? HubSpot, then integration in chatbot, plus getting the website done, Confluence integrated, right? All of that in 2 days. I was like, wow, hats off to you, Dash, to getting that done. That's fast. So great stuff. I think the clarity is so much better from what you presented. I think that there are only 2 things which I want to just quickly point out. We might need to have some clear guidelines on the greenwashing part, so that everything is cut and dry. We know, okay, these things were not adhered to. Sort that out. I think when it comes to the membership part, maybe we need to have at least a member needs to be 6 months into it, right? Otherwise, people will just come in 1 month, waste time, go off, ask for the money back, and all the rest of the things. We have wasted a lot of time as each other, right? That's another point. But apart from that, everything else was perfectly nicely pitched, like amazing. It's so much better. Rama.
Thank you. In fact, this is a good segue into Rama, because we put him in a very difficult situation last week when we asked him some very simple questions. So maybe Rama, does this provide you with the clarity that you were seeking, I guess?
Yeah, perhaps I feel it's too clear that, again, I feel like we had too much information, but otherwise, yeah, I think I have to go through the recording once more. I get what we have discussed, like the 3 of us last week, and I think like we are aligned with it, but just in terms of all the other things that you said, just how do we grow this, perhaps I think I might need to go through the recording once more, but otherwise, I mean, I couldn't log into the HubSpot that you asked, but amazing presentation. Hopefully by next week, we should have all of this in place.
Yeah. And bear in mind, what I've shared is only the principles. So it doesn't make it easy to leap into understanding how it works. And that's what the journey will be in the coming days. And it's not my journey, it's our collective journey. We will do it together. Exactly as Parsin, you mentioned, putting that kind of, well, how do we avoid greenwashing? Whatever it takes, maybe that's the first thing we do. And again, let's be agile. Is that the first thing we need to do? Because we may say, let's hold back the business membership. We'll only open for individual membership until we become clear, because the barriers for individual membership are not there. We don't need to scan people to say how clear are you. So maybe that's so again, but these are things we can collectively define, form small working groups, autonomous, they make decisions, and they just get into the statutes and we follow those. Yeah, but Rama, if it was an information.
And I guess like what probably would sort of satisfy this itch is that just one example of walking us through one, like let's say if you take Parsons Venture as an example, this is how the life cycle looks like. That is one part of it. And then similarly, let's say if Sahas is expected to join us newly in November, how does his ideal journey looks like? Perhaps that I think would make it much more easier. Now I'm clear though, but I'm saying for outsiders, people who are just looking at the first time, right? But something like that would make it much more easier for them.
Yeah. And maybe we do that. Maybe we use that exact thing. And maybe instead of creating fictitious ones, let's use real ones. Let's say Parsons Venture and say this is how Parsons Venture actually went through it, and then just document it and publish it. So I think that would be a good way to do it. Oh, okay. No, I love it. See, look, open innovation, right? So this is exactly what it is. It just starts this way. Now, given, Balaji, you have been a long-standing member, including when you were part of the Circle One. So it'd be good to get your thoughts on this. As in, hopefully, nothing that I've said today is new. And it's stuff that I've said before, but it just is being presented in a more articulate way, hopefully.
More organized, yeah.
So what's your thoughts on this, what you heard? Any suggestions, clarity?
So the last point we were discussing about the memberships is where I was going to come in. See, we may not have a privileged entry type of membership, where basically doing an entry check, are you eligible? Rather than that, bring them on board. If they say, if somebody is Paul, bring them on board and just bring them up to speed, and then let them decide. Give them the chance to, be on board with us, because this is not an idea that people would just say, no, I'm not going to do not for profit. I'm for I do only for profit businesses.
Yeah.
Because we are not ruling out something because it's it's not in alignment with the common goal. Where only we necessarily don't need to sound like we rule out somebody who is not aligned with the common objective. We can always bring them, educate them, and then give them the opportunity to be on board.
Did you mean for individuals or businesses? Because the litmus test is only for businesses. Oh, individuals, there is no restriction.
Individuals.
So the individual, the only restriction is a financial friction, only to make sure we don't suffer what we've suffered in the past. I said in the past that the lack of friction meant I was the one chasing and some of you were chasing for people's availability, for them to update basic information on the website or in Discord or whatever. As in, that kind of lack of commitment was actually a sink, was a time sink that was slowing us down from doing other things. As in, Sahas, you were a great proponent of this skills database, which we were never able to do. And then you have this database which has just names but nothing against it. Now that kind of thing we want to avoid. So that friction is a forced commitment, because if you can commit 99p even, that is good enough friction. Now that's too cheap these days, but 9.99 felt like a good number. But it's something which then increases your commitment to go and fill the skills form, right? It's that kind of very simple stuff that we need to do. and avoid the pitfalls from the past.
Yeah. And feedback on the overall picture of what you presented just now is fantastic. So somebody, coming up with a draft of that magnitude, I don't know how much thought and time you have put into it, but it's like a lifetime, somebody's lifetime's experience. It felt that way.
And I think
it's not easy.
You said it right. It is not lifetime, but since 2011, right? So that's how long this vision's been held. So it's as in the slide deck is a simple thing that didn't take time, but it's all the 12 years that preceded it, which have come. And it's not my idea alone, by the way. It's I'm just crazy to just think about it all the time, but it's a collective. You guys have contributed into it. And while I was presenting it, you may have seen certain things that you've said which have appeared there, and you will see a lot of these things as well. So don't go away thinking it is my idea. It's definitely a collective thing that's brought us where we are today.
And all this while I've been thinking, like trying to contemplate, where does the idea that I discussed with this guy, sustainable township, like few weeks ago, where does that fit into this? How does an idea like sustainable township evolve into something of this? So kind of as you gradually progressed, I started to realize, no, it's not necessarily just that. It's probably the collective.
Yeah. As in that sustainable township was again an example of a cooperative approach where you buy a piece of land, 10 members come together and they build whatever is a beautiful town for their use and open it up to others if they want to participate. So it's the same principle, but and the approach can be for any kind of venture. It doesn't. You can build an entire city using cooperative approaches, and you can build software through cooperative approaches. Everything is possible.
But something tangible like that will fulfill what Rama has proposed. Let me have a look at one of the examples. That will be an easy example to contemplate. A township contains houses, etc. It's easy to visualize.
It may just cause some cognitive dissonance because if you talk too big an ideas, and I have absolutely, as in, people will laugh if I say this, but I don't see a problem. We can be in space exploration as a cooperative, so I have absolutely no doubt that this can be done. It's just if I say, and I said it, if you look at one of the first recordings that was opened up. It was me talking to Andy Barnes. I said, I see a day when we will launch a rocket as a group. And he said, really? Is that what you mean? Do you mean just going to Tesco's and buying a fireworks rocket and flying? And I said, yeah, you know what? If that's all it becomes, that's fine. But we did it together. I think that's the important bit. So I think, but when you give examples, if I was to focus on that, people will kind of have this cognitive dissonance straight away. They'll simply just not get it because they're not used to these kind of crazy ideas. So we'll see. I think we can use community capital. We've got enough examples, right? So there are so many ventures. As in Town Square is a great example. Now we can use that as something which we've talked about and work through those examples and see how it can be aligned. I think something relatable would be great.
I think our core ethos needs to be imagination is the only limitation of what we can do, because that is all what who we are actually. And if you want to launch a rocket, let's do it.
Yeah, why not? As in, to me, the question is,
it's not as if we don't have the technology.
No, we will be, as in maybe not in our lifetime. I think I should add the word maybe, but we will be interplanetary species at some point. So if we can't think that way today,
depends who we partner up with, right? Who knows if we can partner up with NASA one day, right? Suddenly we have a small bit of connection to getting our imagination into a reality.
No, as in, I'm not joking, but I've already had conversations with someone who is into So I don't know, maybe Balaji, you probably remember Agnes, Agnieszka, the lovely lady from Poland who was doing the future of work. So her brother has been doing things in space exploration and all that, and quite an aligned guy. And I've already had a conversation with him about how do I make this rocket do something with space, not necessarily rocket. And there were some interesting things there about we can put just a packet into the universe, right? Through a collaborative approach. That can be the first step. You can take some what's the word? He was far more eloquent than I am, but you can take literally whatever you think, put it on the next flight that's going towards the space station, and then just deliver that, right? So we could be delivering something, and that's the first step into the space. But it's doable, right? Cargo, space cargo was the word I think he was using. So it may start with that. There's nothing stopping us, is the point here. And it's just our imagination, like you said, Basu, I agree. If we can't imagine, we can't do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just no, we've gone way over, but Saz, you are last but not the least. We've lost JP, so obviously we'll catch up with him. But what was your take? You've been quite disconnected recently, so and it's not a criticism, but a lot has happened, and we've not covered everything today. So what was this useful in coming up to speed? Does this kind of inspire you?
So yeah, definitely. I mean, like yesterday when you reached out to me, or when actually the page or when the page or the post for the page came about, I went about skimming through the page. I actually went to the website. I saw that stuff. It was pretty interesting. I think today it was more about the principles, as you said, which is very quite interesting. And I know for a fact, like something that I think like that a quality that you possess that I think has to be incorporated into the culture of the group is this bias for action. As much as we think, or, like have these multiple different concepts, I think the concept of you going and, like having that bias for action and just doing it, I think that has to be incorporated more into the culture of the group. That would be one thing that I wanted to just add. But I'm very curious to see. And this membership thing, like the fee, I think that also evolved from the third space, like a paid network. And there are a lot of, like touch points. And, like we've had a lot of conversations, like discussing all the past experiences of Small Outside. And I was quite involved with Small Outside for a very, like one fixed time, which was, like high engagement. But I truly understand the problem of, the churn. We've discussed it before. And I think this solution could possibly address all of these problems, and that was one of the reasons that was creating a lot of friction points for me as a member, even though there were some really good ideas, even though with Right Hyper, we moved, like 3-4 steps ahead with something, but at some point, there was some frictions during different points, which usually happens when you're trying to do multiple different ideas. But I think if with this concept, if you're able to nail 2 or 3 things that we are going to 100% do and everything else is kind of a bonus, that approach would be great. And I'm very curious to see how this evolves over the next coming weeks, days, and months. How it works, the timelines for establishing things, and how I can be involved in a much more active way, and what you see as the role.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you hit upon a very important point there, which is that agility, right? And I think you bring that agile thinking already, and that's what you are from the work that you've done so far. And it's, as in, the problem with the word cooperative is that stayed image that I think we need to maybe add that word agile, global agile cooperative. I think that word is so important. We probably, once we start reviewing this more as a structured thing, I'm expecting whatever I presented today to change, to gather such inputs, and even the words we use will change. And that's what, and it will not just change once, it will keep evolving. So I see this as version 1, version 2, version 3, keeping on going forever. Yeah. So I think that will happen. So there's no doubt in my mind that you will not be adding value in size. So we are going to see a lot more of you, hopefully. As in even things like Right Piper and all. One of the things it solved is even with Town Square, you built it outside, then you built it inside, then you built it outside. Now that kind of friction or challenge also gets addressed because you don't need to build it inside anymore. You just build it outside, but still get the same goodness and still maintain your direct control. It's more making sure that your effort actually gets supported, and which is why the shared service layer is important, and that's what the alliance owns. But you have complete freedom and autonomy on your book. So that's an important shift that has happened. There are other things, the Three Islands economy, which I don't know whether you are aware of, or the Zairua engine. All these things we've talked about. All these things will play a role, and not just that. You are a you are an entrepreneur. You are a reflection of 25 years back of me, I think, is how I see it quite often. And some of the ventures as in SARS Inc. that, or BIGS, whatever you want talking about, that can be a trusted partner supplying into, as much as I see, as in Small Outside is not dead. It will continue. I'm crazy enough to come up with lots of crazy things. So that will continue. But it will all kind of create opportunities for yourself or others to support the alliance itself. So I think that's going to happen. How is the detail? We'll figure it out. Right.
The financial.
I think even Town Square, right? Just to, yeah, go on.
Good service.
No, I was just gonna say, Town Square, like we took it in, we tried to do it out because we couldn't have engagement, but then like I didn't move forward with it at all. So it's still there. It is still a small outside asset, like later on when we have the right members, I want to build it with small outside. And that's the reason I've kept it aside, because it was incubated over there and it has every right to be incubated over there. And it was a shared idea, right? Like we did get a lot of input, but again, that is just one venture aside. But now I think like there are different things that also that I can add value with new things that I'm exploring at this moment, and new technologies that have also come in, and new partnerships. But I'm curious to see how this will evolve, and I want to be much more active and contributing whichever way I can.
I have no doubt that will not happen. Or that will happen. I don't know how to put it. Maybe I've put a double negative there, but you know what I mean. So sorry, was it Balaji? Were you trying to say something? I'm just conscious it's a long recording. So
yeah, sorry, it might not be, might not need to be part of the recording. Basically, was going to point out.
Hold on, if there is anything sensitive, you are, because this will be published. So. Yeah, if you can't, say it publicly, don't say it, kind of thing.
No, absolutely. Yes, we're still in closed circles. That's fine. So what I was going to say is, why don't we just venturize the alliance idea we have just discussed? Venturize as in make it associate a seed capital. Just giving you as an example. And the credits that we are talking about, members have to have a fee associated to continue the membership. So which means there is a financial aspect of it already, and credit them with the work they're doing.
So sorry,
and even if it means, go ahead.
Sorry, what was the venture here?
The alliance.
Oh, the alliance. No,
global alliance.
Yeah, but that is the model. So that's whatever people pay sits within the alliance's pot. As in, I think what we will have is, so what I'm trying to do is use Small Outside, because we don't have a legal structure yet. So Small Outside, the problem is without a legal structure, you can't have a bank. So all the money somehow needs to be worked into something. So because Small Outside already exists as a limited company, I'll make it a payment processing partner or something until we achieve the legal status, and then it can shift. So I think the way I see it is any membership fee will come into, I have an extra bank account which I had no use for, so that will become a ring fence for the alliance. All the money will, I'm happy to put a joint account holder so I can't abuse it or anything, if that makes sense. But that money will be alliance's money. And at some point when the alliance gets a legal status, that can be shifted across. But we'll have to just work with the regulations and make sure that we are A, not breaking it, but B, we are working within it so that at least we can do simple things like collecting £10 a month or whatever it is going to be. So, but yeah.
Even without putting actual money into the common pocket, once you have a venture idea, it can be, and you go to, I think, Value or somebody who does the underwritership, etc., for raising funds. Those people can put a value against the business based on the idea, the value of the idea. They can start you from, say, I'm just giving you for example, say today's net worth is $100,000. That's the value of the business at start, and it can grow from there.
Yeah,
so
but
if we
think
try
what
to
you are
do that
talking
from day
about,
one.
But I think you're talking about an individual venture, which we will probably not do it within the alliance. We will.
But the alliance itself is also, although it's a platform for individual ventures, alliance should also be considered. Even if it's going through a co-op model, it will have a value. Will it not?
It will, but we'll have to check with the co-op rules, because the way I'm seeing it is, for example, the blockchain use.
Yeah.
I'm seeing it as a very simple system, and I'll write it up as to what it will look like. But let's say all the money comes into this bank account. Some of it gets used. Therefore, that money kind of gets negated from the balance. Whatever is the bank, on simple terms, whatever is the bank balance is the total value of the total tokens in circulation. And all you do is take bank value divided by tokens, and that's the value of each token. The problem you have is, and if we are making a lot of money into that account through economic activity, not through membership fees, because that will only result in more tokens, but through economic activity, if we are generating more revenue, then the balance divided by number of tokens will increase over time. But what you are describing is artificial valuation, because this is very much, that's the money in the bank, that's the number of tokens. The problem with valuation is it's a valuation, right? So you can't, that if somebody says, I want to sell these tokens back to the alliance cannot give that much money back because somebody values it 10 times its current assets. The alliance can't give 10 times the value back. So I think we get into equities very quickly and betting and all that kind of stuff. So we'll have to stay clear of that. But there's nothing stopping individual ventures, because I don't see the individual ventures being built by the alliance. They'll be supported by the alliance, but let's say you have a bright idea which somebody values at 1 billion or whatever, then whatever be your economy that allows, and you say, you know what, 3 of us, maybe you, SARS, and Pasan get together and pursue it. You figure out how you want to divide the billion into and how you manage that. But that's almost a limited company structure, nothing to do with alliance. So I think we have to keep these things clear. Otherwise, we'll get into a whole regulatory mess. I think the cooperative should simply be value in bank divided by tokens. That's it. And that's the simplest way to do it.
Fair enough. I was going to, I was only suggesting this just to keep. Go ahead, Sas. Sorry, been on hold.
No. I just had a quick follow-up question for that. So, one was, in the form, in the deck, right? Like there's this point where all the membership fees goes into the pot of the community pot. And now, does the community pot invest in some of these ventures, or if some ventures need some bit of debt capital, does that work like that?
It
Is it
entirely
something
depends on what the members decide. So it is members' money.
Okay.
If the members think it's no different to any other business. If the members decide in a traditional business, the owner decides and says, "Yeah, I've got the surplus funds in the business. I want to invest in another business." Then that's the owner's call. That's the commercial relationship that owner is getting into with a new venture. So if let's say we had a huge pot which we can now invest into other businesses, other ventures that the member proposes, then that's the commercial relationship between the alliance and the membership, other business, if that makes sense.
Okay, so what exactly do you envision this alliances fund to be funding?
So it will be all the shared service layer. That's what it will be, right? So with the shared services, they can generate. Just a sec. My daughter's making a lot of noise behind, and it's all getting recorded. Give me 2 seconds. Carry on talking. I think, Parson, you were trying to say something.
Yeah, I think one of the things which, like, because I'm part of the Rotary Club in Scotland as well, so I think something similar to what Dash is doing, but basically what happens there is there's a membership layer, and there is sponsorships and all the rest of the things are obviously going into a single pot. And when there is a thing which we want to support, all the members vote on that, right? As Dash said, everyone has a single vote, right? And if a majority votes, okay, we need to fund this project with the capital which is in the bank, right? That gets invested. I don't know whether that is what Dash is also trying to do, but it is a similar structure to what we are doing at Rotary.
Yeah, exactly that. Except we will probably use blockchain to cast the votes. So depending on how many wallets you have.
Makes sense. Thank you for that.
As in, all these solutions have already been thought of. So one wallet translates to one vote. If you remember when I used to talk about Angels Co-op, I used to say someone with 1 penny should be able to have a voice. That's an example. So if you have 1 penny, you are a member, and therefore you have a voice that you can cast because you've got a wallet ID. So we'll implement all that, but how that gets implemented, we will see. Either we build it inside the alliance, or it gets built as an independent venture. So even the blockchain solution itself, at the moment, I'm thinking I'll just build it as part of Small Outside with Small Outside Limited. Now, because we've separated it, and that solution, whatever effort it takes, I'll invest into it and make the service accessible to the alliance, and either for free or at least cover the costs that I will incur. So it's kind of, I'm seeing in my head, I'm seeing even myself split into multiple pieces so that there is the alliance's interests are maintained, but somehow Small Outside can support the alliance in getting it off the ground, while ensuring there is no exclusive access to the opportunity to Small Outside simply because it started it. If somebody else comes up with a competing offer, which is collaboration again, then that can become the supplying system to the alliance, and Small Outside has to take a step back and lose out. But that's so be it. That's how it's going to be.
That's what I was going to suggest. I was suggesting the financial aspect of it only to solve the problem of members not staying consistent and intact with our common goal, common idea. It's not because we lack luster, or we have any scarcity of ideas. There is a lot of interest in the ideas, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, also people have proven by coming up with their own individual venture ideas that the interest was there always. Where we are lagging is the for the same reason that we have proposed that we will, if we have membership fee friction as a friction, it will draw, keep them attached to the idea. I was thinking exactly the opposite of it. Just because I've put in 10 pounds, let me go and attend because I'm paying for the service. Rather than that, it's quite the opposite. No, if I go in there, I'm drawing something financially as well. That's the idea I'm coming up with. Does it make sense?
I think, no, it does. And I think that, so the friction is not a money spinner, right?
Yeah.
So the membership fee is not designed to be a money spinner or anything like that. It is purely a friction. And there are costs. As in, if I tell you how much I've spent in the last 5-6 years, you'll be shocked, actually. I can't keep spending this endlessly, right? So something's got to pay. Even things like, even for the Alliance's website and all, I dug hands into my pockets and paid for the hosting and all those things. So there are, even these are small costs, they are costs. So it pays for that. But the commitment is, let's say if I'm a non-serious member, let's walk through this, right? So I'm a non-serious member who comes in. The first thing is, I want to become a member. Great. You need to pay 10 pounds, right? Because you'll have to pay 1 month's membership, at least. Now, when you pay that, that will result at the moment, or everyone's wallets and all, I've been sponsoring it because I was kind of structuring this. That costs real money. It doesn't come free, but some of it will go towards the wallet creation. You've now got a digital wallet with the tokens inside it. That now has enabled you. So that is no more a free service. So that's the first friction you've created and a benefit you already created. Because that wallet is not just a benefit for the Alliance's tokens, you can now participate in the blockchain economy. So you're getting something back automatically already. Now, the next month, let's say you come in, so I'm a new member, I come in, I get my wallet, I've got the tokens, they're sitting with me. I come into some meetings or I join Third Space and I start seeing benefit, or I don't see any benefits. I see Third Space is just rubbish people talking rubbish things, right? Then, in my view, let's say, as someone who's not going to be the baddie, if you like. So I come in, I say, oh yeah, these guys just talk about sustainability. It's of no interest to me. That's fine, no problems. Don't pay the next month's membership and you lose access to Third Space. You lose access to all the bad stuff we are talking about, right? So that's absolutely fine. But it still means that you paid your 10 pounds. So that money or the tokens that you got for 10 pounds are still yours. Tomorrow, if this alliance becomes a unicorn, you will still get that 10 pound worth of share, while others will have accumulated more because they continue remaining a member and each month they are building their equity into the alliance. So I think that kind of works fine, and it will, in my head, the model is super clear. I can see it from 10 years from now, what it will look like. So just give me that little space and time to just articulate all that, build those systems, and we'll get that working. It will come through. Trust me. But
the thing that you mentioned about the cost that you have entailed by making this available, this entire platform, whether it is the wallets or the website, the hosting, etc. What you missed mainly is the opportunity cost. Your time that you have dedicated for this whole thing. It wouldn't sustain this long if somebody's time is not dedicated. So that opportunity cost is a much bigger value to it.
Yeah, but to me, this is what I wanted to do. So it is an opportunity that I've not actually lost. If anything, I've gained. It's fine. Like I say, the reason why I'm doing this is on my deathbed, I don't want to look back and say, shit, I didn't do anything. I lived a 9-to-5 rat race, and that's not going to make me happy. So
Makes me jealous of you, man.
Come on, we are all going to die one day, right? So we just have to
Balaji, we
figure
are
out
all
what we are
in it
doing with our
together,
life.
so there's no regrets. I don't think so.
Yeah. No, I have no regrets whatsoever. I do this every minute of my day, right? So it's like, yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, no opportunities were ever lost here in the making of this enterprise. Like you get no animals were harmed in the making of this film. I think it's very similar. Sorry, I'm just conscious we have massively overrun. These calls can be exciting and interesting, but we do need to start wrapping up. So are there any final shots? I'm going to go around the call very quickly. So I'll start with you, Fasil, left hand of my screen.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for obviously getting all of this sorted out. Hats off to you. Let's work together to build this community and make it a success.
Thank you. Rama?
I'm thinking what you have said last week. You're saying that are we going down the path of analysis paralysis? And then I think that is one of the reasons that we had an extensive discussion last week, and you have come up with all of this in this way. I would like to see that if all of us can decide on a timeline, both in terms of getting up this membership, because there might be many people like this, right? Now that we are trying to simplify this a bit, wherein we are not asking for time initially, but we are asking for money, come pay us a nominal amount and be part of this MSC crew. I'm sensing that there might be a lot more people interested than when we say that no, you need to commit for an X amount of time. So using that leverage, can we just put up a deadline like before this year we'll get this off the ground and maybe reach, let's say, less than 50 people, like 50 people can be the upper limit, like can we, I guess like something like that if we try to pursue. And I'm sensing that because now Dash have said it last week, and also I'm sure all of us feel like we see a lot of traction internally, but we don't see anything externally. That is where our internet audience are, especially. So something like that probably can be done. We can have a lengthy discussion over this perhaps next week also, but that is something even like what Balaji is making opportunity cost, because obviously while you might not think about it, the new people who come in or someone else might think that, okay, if I'm giving 2 hours for this every day, what am I getting back? So probably keeping that in mind, we can definitely see how we can, like you just said, agile now, how we can make some things faster while having like trying to put systems for others in place.
Wouldn't you said end of the year? That's not agile enough. How about end of next week?
End of next week, 50 people.
No. End of next week, the process is in place.
Yeah,
so
no. I was saying 50 people for end of year, not for the process though. 50 external people who have committed funds and joined the.
End
I
of
thought
October.
that is the bare minimum that we should aspire.
50 people end of October. Seriously.
Okay. Then fine. No, I don't have any issue with it.
Otherwise, we're not agile. We are then
Yeah,
we
no,
won't
I
stay
don't have any
profitable.
issue. So yeah, absolutely we can try. Yes.
Yeah. End of next
That's
week to get the processes and all in place.
Yeah.
The only caveat I'll put is the 50 will have to be people who are directly known to us only because of because we don't fully understand the cooperative legal structure. And what I don't want is completely unknown people starting to join and we get into this equities nightmare and all that stuff. So I just want to avoid that. But 50 people, come on, man. Between 5 of us, we will get 50 by the end of this month. By end of next week, I think we will get. If we want to,
Yeah,
we
so
can.
then essentially we're talking about our first degree connections, right? Once we get all of this right, our first degree.
First degree who will not come and screw us because we got some of the rules wrong, right? I think that's an important thing. 50 people, man, end of next week, I think we should aim for. Hold on, end of next week for the process. I'll get the bank account, the tokens and all that stuff started. And yeah, end of October, 50 people. Yep. Fast enough?
Yes.
Thumbs up.
Good stuff. Balaji, final
Amazing.
shots from you.
Amazing. And I'm still waiting to hear about sustainable township. Where do we go with that? But
How about that being the first venture? Not. I don't think that
not
should
an
be
example.
the Alliance's venture, but it should be your venture, which the Alliance supports.
Again, time constraint.
Look,
I need a partner. I need a partner for that.
that's what the Alliance should do, right? Bring you the
Yeah,
partners,
yeah.
bring you the support, and help you achieve your mission. So, yeah, let's try and do it.
And done. Then done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good
Also, I
stuff.
want to close the day with, where do we get people like you, man? People like you. I'm referring to all of you. I mean, with the 4 and 5 of you, I've seen last time, like, the last time I joined from a balcony, right? That kind of setup.
Yes.
That you had me view from there. And I saw only 5 or 6 of you, and all of you are like consistent. So there is something happening.
Yeah.
I think having different mindsets and different viewpoints is what the Alliance is all about. So we have to have the core values for sure. Dash's values is what we all have, and that's why we are committed toward this. Having different minds and different viewpoints will create an amazing team.
Yeah. That's what open innovation is all about, right? It's about unconstrained thinking.
Yeah.
There you go. Awesome, Balaji. We'll look forward to hearing the name for your sustainable township by end of next week then.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Sahas, last and final shots.
Yeah, I think, everybody kind of covered what I wanted to say. But I think I'm pretty aligned with Rama and in establishing timelines and having that bias for action sort of thing. Like, I'm repeating that same 3 words because I think that is what is fundamentally has changed within me as well. And I think that is something that we need to incorporate into what we're doing with the Alliance, with anything that we do, any venturization, anything we do. It's not just staying as an idea, but go ahead and experiment and show some sort of traction or have that action bias for action. So that's the only input that I have. I think I totally, resonate with everybody else's thoughts at this point. I'm very curious to see how I can be a part of this and in the coming weeks. Once maybe the structure, you have something and you want to do it, and then after that is when we all get involved. But if you kind of want us to be involved during that process as well, I'm open to working on that.
Yeah, no, sure. Thank you for that. The only reason I'm kind of plowing on is simply to expedite, as there is so much of capital that's been built from the last 6 years. Quite often, if we get into a discussion mode, we will reinvent the same thing. So I would rather just put it out there, and then you guys can just decide what you want to do with it and change it the way it needs to be done. So we'll get that sorted. And last but not the least from my side, I think is these recordings and all are great. This one will be published on the Alliance's YouTube channel, which I'll be getting sorted. It will get published on the LinkedIn, so it will get linked out on the LinkedIn page as well, the Alliance's LinkedIn page. This recording is the Alliance's property. It is not my property anymore. So that's what will happen. In terms of next week onwards, I'm setting up all the systems for the Alliance's work on Google. So that may include removing Microsoft Teams. So it may become a more open forum that we can get onto. But Google Meet may not allow recording on the free version. So for that, if we need to buy a license, then we will figure it out. But watch this space. If you don't hear any updates, then this will still be the link, but it will become an open forum, not just restricted to this small group. Anyone will be able to join. That's it. That's all from me. I hope you have a lovely weekend. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your participation, and speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Cheers.
you.